Hope everybody's doing well. Here we go again. Got another day of optimism that we're beginning with.
Good morning, good afternoon, everybody.
Good morning, Paul.
Giles, how you doing?
I'm doing good. How are you? You okay?
I'm good. Ready for another day? Yesterday
Excellent.
was very interesting coming back. The price action was a lot more predictable, at least for me, as I was going through it. A lot more
Yeah.
predictable. The ATRs come down. Markets seem to be, we'll see. Get another day and anything crazy could happen. But yesterday reminded me of trading in sort of months gone past. So it was good. It was just really good.
A lot of the volatility had gone out of it, hadn't it?
Yep. It's
Yeah.
slower, it's more predictable. It was reacting off levels better. So I don't know. It's just
Yeah. Well, we got the European morning has been very similar as well. It's just been a very clear buy
Mhm.
bias from early this morning, really.
Yep. Yep. Exactly.
Well, let's see what the day has for us. I'll go through the normal rundown. First thing to note is we are
UK Schiller as well for the 20-year NSA. That's up 4.7% underneath the expected 4.8%.
We've got an open at the moment looking like it'll be
For the month over
outside
month,
yesterday's
that's
value.
0.5% above the expected 0.4%.
And you can see that sentiment is generally up around the world. And the basis for this is the continuation of a little bit of hope stroke optimism that Trump's tariffs are going to be less punitive than originally thought. There was an article with the Financial Times that was indicating that there's going to be a two-step tariff regime. So it might be implemented in increments, and quite a few countries are going to be granted exemptions. India was dialing back some of its tariffs on US companies as well. So there's a general sort of de-escalation feel about the tariffs that are coming up, and that is boosting sentiment around the world. And it's a continuation of what we saw yesterday. So we're still in that kind of mood. We do have some economic data to be aware of. We've got consumer confidence coming up today, and it's another soft data
As a reminder,
point.
about 30 seconds time on the lookout. Fitzwilliam is to give opening remarks at an NY Fed event.
So it's another soft data point. So if that comes in stronger, that will be seen as positive because it's pushing back against some of that negative soft data points we've had, particularly University of Michigan consumer data, and we have had some weak business US confidence. A lot of it has been based around concerns over tariffs. So if tariffs are expected to be less impactful, then you can start to discount some of that.
Households and firms, they're seeing heightened uncertainty. Though Williams does not comment on monetary policy outlook in prepared remarks.
Okay, and we've obviously got Fed Williams speaking right now as we're sort of doing this rundown. So just looking ahead for volatility. So commodities all higher on a weaker dollar. You can see gold continues to push higher, copper, silver, dollar pushing lower. A lot of that sort of spike we saw in US 10-year yields yesterday, that has just pulled back a little bit. So just noticing we're not easily able to break out of that 4.35% area on the yields, but just keep an eye on that. The yield space can impact markets. That's fine for now, but just keep an eye on what happens in yields throughout the session. So sentiment continued to have a buy bias until we see otherwise. Then if we look at the big picture for the E-mini, we can see opening up outside of value. We can see that inventory has been positive from the overnight session. We can see we've got a whole bunch of sellers trapped up here. So all those sellers trapped there. So if I get a pull back down to that 5820, I'm just happy to buy in, stopped underneath the VWAP, just leaning against those sellers there. So any drop, I'm expecting to find dip buyers. On the hourly chart, you can see we've got a developed value area high above from a previous week, and we've got a developing value area high that we're trying to break out of as we speak. So it's all sort of moving higher. Looking at the daily chart, we can see you've got value area high from yesterday, which would be a great area for dip buying. And we're trying to break above this value area high area from the 6th of March. So we're in a kind of dip buying area, but I haven't wanted to buy in that high. And we saw the first sort of evidence of sellers coming in here at the 12:45 candle on my chart, and you can see there's quite a lot of volume that came in, but they haven't been able to push things lower, but we have got some buyers trapped up there. So just be conscious that we might potentially see a reversal. If we don't see a reversal and we push those sellers, then I'll be looking for dip buying, trying to move up to 5834 and beyond. Next kind of target is at the 5845 region. So buy bias from any dips. Value area will be the 5820. That's exactly the same region on the hourly chart where we have all those trapped sellers. Europe, you can see, pushed into that value area low from yesterday, just found dip buyers and has continued its way through. So 5820, very important area for buyers, but if we can keep breaking out of this area, then there's no reason why we can't carry on higher. So buying the dip makes sense until we see otherwise. We've had a steady, fast rhythm, slight rhythm change that we've seen in the last sort of 30 minutes, with the most amount of sellers from the whole day having come in recently. Probably a bit of profit taking, but it remains to be seen. There wasn't any particular headline driving that. And the next data point to look at is at 2 o'clock. So we haven't got a lot on the data front. A couple of things to note from a seasonal perspective. Hey Najam. First day of April coming up tends to be very strong for the S&P 500. If you look at the 5 days before and the 5 days after April, you see that there's an 80% winning trade percentage and an average return of 2.48%. So it's a quite turn of the month period we've got for the S&P 500. And if you look at it from a seasonal perspective, you can see, 68% winning trade percentage over the last 25 years from the 1st of April through to the end of April. And if you took it from like today's date, the 25th of March, and just run it through to the 10th of April, you can see very strong seasonal bias. So definitely something to be looking out for. Remember, turn of the month effect, you tend to see gains in major world indices, and most of those gains happen, believe it or not, from the end of the month to the first 3 or 4 days of the new month. And that's a pattern that repeats across all the major world indices. A lot of it is just incremental buying that's taking place from fund managers and pension funds that tend to take place at exactly the same time each month. So that's part of the reason why you have these big upticks around the turn of the month. So that's the only other thing to be aware of. I think that is the only important areas to note is these sellers coming in here. That's an important area. Then the value areas are the important areas for us to look at on the daily chart, and sort of looking if we can manage risk around those regions. And that's the major thing to look at today.
Crypto. Donald Trump's World Liberty Financial Crypto Venture says it will launch a dollar-pegged stablecoin. Says it's USD1 stablecoin. It will be backed by US Treasuries, dollar deposits, and cash equivalents.
Okay, Trump getting involved in crypto stuff.
Well, it's interesting though. He was giving some validity to the USDC, I believe. Is that right?
Again, Paul, I didn't catch that.
That was interesting because I believe he was giving more validity to the USDC stablecoin, which will give broader validity to the entire crypto market and will help the whole crypto market, because essentially if they use that technology and they start storing all these dollars in USDC, well, it's really easy to go from USDC to Bitcoin or USDC to Solana, because it's all now in that ecosystem.
Yeah,
so that's very interesting.
Yeah. And the only other thing we had over in the UK was headlines with US Defense Secretary calling Europe pathetic on the WhatsApp group. So that's doing the rounds over here in the UK.
Well, let's see. You're looking to buy in down at the, so your order in there at the 20.
Yeah.
It's way back down into there. We'll see. It seems like 14 points all of a sudden is like a big deal. It's a huge move.
Yeah, I think if we get to the open, say we hit this 5833, then I'll consider buying in at the sort of 5827.
Yep.
Just against those sellers there.
Do you remember the first, I believe it was like the first weekend, maybe it was like November last year or December, where the market moved in like this like 8 or 9, 10 point range for like 3 days, 4 days. We were just sitting, the market just wouldn't go anywhere.
Yeah, I do. Yeah.
it really, someone said the other day, they were like, you have to get to know the market has a range of personalities, and that sort of down in the dull personality is one. The crazy sort of frenetic personality that we've seen with Trump is another. And I feel like we're returning to something of normalcy. I hope. But like, even just look at these candles, right? And you see from the top, right? You see it hit those highs. It's hit the value area, right? And now you haven't had like a purge above that candle there. Actually, go on the screen. You haven't had a purge above this candle here, right? To try to hunt all those stops. You just have said, okay, hit the value area. You've come down into the next value area, and now if you were to buy on this candle, say with your stop underneath here, you're fine with a chance to go up. If you buy, it just like normal little thing. Oh, a little hammer candle right here. Okay, you're fine, right? But before it was like, let's see.
Yeah, it's sort of choppy. It fakes down, up, and then
it just
carries on.
Just constant. And your stops, you're to be way larger because the candles were larger, but also because none of the levels were holding. So I don't know. Like, you look at this line, it's just very, it's very easily holding. And then if we go up here, if you had an entry, it's probably going to hold there and move down. So I don't know. The environment's changing again, I think.
Yeah.
And I'm hoping it stays permanent. It won't, because when we get to April, I think that's when it might start getting wild again. But
I mean, if we can push above that swing point here, which we're trying to, then that does open up, another decent leg higher, essentially.
Yeah.
And this is a for stocks with the turn of the month, and it's tying in with relief over Trump's tariff. I mean, that's the thing that can skew the pitch, isn't it? The tariff that's coming 2nd of April. That's next Tuesday.
Yeah, exactly.
But it is nice and steady. Looks like those sellers are not going to be trapped on this 15 close. They're still there. Those sellers are still kind of there in the market.
Mm-hmm.
And you got that 5-minute sellers trapped here, but those buyers are still trapped up there. So we're in a kind of decision point. But I wouldn't be surprised to see this have a potential leg lower and then carry on higher. But we'll see. 15 minutes to the get-go.
See, Bitcoin's moving up a little bit on that announcement. I mean, not like a ton, but you can see it on the 1-minute chart.
Yeah, okay. We of course got the PCE print coming on Friday, haven't we? So that's sort of grip market's attention as well.
That'll be nice.
Yeah, bigger picture, I think that this is still going higher. Sort of, if relief sort of spreads through that Trump's tariffs aren't massively punitive, I could see this going back up to test the highs again. Because if there's no sense that there's a recession heading for the US, it's a very outside chance. Yeah, I could see us carrying on, and that's kind of a false break, and then rallying up to fresh highs to like end of April, and then back down for May with that kind of the typical season pattern that you see. Strong, and then sell in May, go away.
News out of Turkey. According to Reuters, citing two sources, Turkish finance minister tells foreign investors on call he will not comment on judicial matters and the events of past week.
And that, on the weekly chart, Najam, that's a nice like Harami inside bar. So if we do get a break and close above this mother candle, then becomes really strong support on a test. And the potential is that this is a bottom for the last 2 weeks. Good support level, pull back, dip buyers, basing, and then rallying back up to test these highs again. All right, I'm out of those. All right, let's have a look. What's going on? So we're pushing back through
from Xinhua,
yesterday's value area high.
Construction Bank strives to provide no less than 8 trillion yuan in financing for private economy by the end of 2027.
So we've got buyers trapped up here. So I think there's a fresh impetus to go short.
More from Moody's says even in a very positive economic scenario, US debt affordability remains materially weaker than for other AAA rated sovereigns. And at the top of the hour, in just under 9 minutes time, we're expecting a few bits of US data, starting off with consumer confidence for March. That's seen fallen to 94 from 98.3. New home sale units, they're seen rising to 679,000 from 657,000. Also looking out for the Richmond Fed, as well as some of its sub-indices.
We'll have to see how the data comes out here. Could be the next mover.
2 seconds. Right, let's have a look what's going on. It's 8 minutes to the data. Yeah. I'm going to have one last go long now, then call it a day on that.
More out of Turkey via the central bank chief does tell foreign investors will do everything necessary within market rules and will remain market friendly, according to 2 participants cited by Reuters.
See if the data comes out. Did you ever use those risk reversal levels that we used to have, Giles, when trading data, or no?
Yeah.
Did you? Yeah. Just plotting them as major levels to look at.
We're starting to take out some of those sellers now, and we're starting to take out some of those. I want to see if we can get these sellers taken out here at the 824. That would be very interesting. Hey, Anthony. Oh, well done, Anthony. No, banana bread's lovely. Well done.
Just coming up to a minute and a half to the top of the hour, we are expecting US consumer confidence. That's expected to fall to 94 from 98.3. Also looking out for US new home sale units. They're expected to rise to 679K from 657,000. Also looking out as well for Richmond Fed Composite Index. Regarding the order, if all the data hits at the top of the hour, we'll start with US consumer confidence, then on to new home sales and Richmond Fed. But typically Richmond Fed does drop earlier for the top of the hour, so we'll lead with that if it does.
How is banana bread good for your lifting regimen, Anthony? That's not. You shouldn't be taking that stuff, honestly. Sugar, fats, more creatine is what you need. Upgrade, replace that and get 10 grams of creatine instead of the 5 recommended every day. All right, this one.
Fed Comp Index, that's -4, down from the prior 6. Services, -4, down from the prior 11. Manufacturing shipments at -7, down from the prior 12.
Causing a little volatility pre-release.
10 seconds.
Let's see what we get.
And that's 92.9 below the expected 94. New home sale units there, 676,000, beneath the expected 679,000. US consumer confidence there falling more than expected. Was expected to go down to 94, but went further to 92.9. In terms of new home sale units, they rose to 676,000. That's a lesser rise than expected. Marks were looking for 679,000, although the prior was revised up to 664,000.
I'd see that dip being bought. I don't see it changing anything, but we'll see.
Further, in that US consumer confidence report on the present situation part, consumer assessments of current business conditions were significantly less positive in March. And in terms of consumers' perceived likelihood of a US recession over the next 12 months, that held steady in March. In terms of the average 12-month inflation expectations, they rose again from 5.8% in February to 6.2% in March. On the business conditions component, 17.1% of consumers expected business conditions to improve, down from the 20.8% seen in February. 27.3% expected conditions to worsen, up from the 25.5%. Consumers' outlook for the labour market outlook also deteriorated. In terms of consumers, they were more pessimistic about their income prospects in March.
Okay, I think the reaction around this area is going to be crucial, really. We've got these buyers sort of trapped up against that point of control. So let's see what happens. There's nothing really as a surprise in that data. Just put it the other side of the point of control. There's no big surprise in that. And on the hourly, we are in a nice dip buying area against the point of control on the weekly. And you got these sellers that were trapped here.
Speaking about RCA remarks from the NBH, they say a careful and patient approach to monetary policy is warranted.
More sellers are trying this. Let's see. The delta's positive. We had a value area low, but we're testing it. We got some buyers trapped now up against the VWAP and the point of control.
And just on the sanctions front, according to the Treasury Department's website, US has issued fresh Iran sanctions. Still waiting for more details.
Hit the VWAP where those buyers got trapped. Slight pullback. Still backing longs. Still expecting dip buyers on this weak US consumer confidence print. Don't see it as a surprise.
And just be aware, there's quite a few geopolitical related headlines just crossing the feed at the moment. We'll just go through them in order. US intelligence says China in 2025 likely to apply stronger coercive pressures against Taiwan. The report says China presents the most comprehensive and robust military threat to US national security. China advancing military capabilities for a cross-strait campaign US says. Intelligence says that China likely to increase economic pressure on Taiwan, and it sees Taiwan taking steps towards formal independence. China's dominance in critical materials, mining and processing particular threat, the report notes. This is the US's annual threat assessment report, which is crossing at the moment. Elsewhere within the report, it says that the war in Ukraine has afforded Russia a wealth of lessons about Western weapons and intelligence.
All known, none of that surprise.
They say that China remains a primary threat to the US. And just going back to Russia, Russia will be unable to achieve total victory, but retains the momentum in the war with Ukraine.
Hey, Konstantinos. Hope you're doing well.
Goes on to talk about how Russia is developing a new satellite meant to carry a nuclear weapon, and that could have a devastating consequence for the US and the world. Again, folks, there's a lot more in these reports. We have just been flagging the major headlines here. We'll put details up on the newsfeed there, and of course, we will flag anything that crosses, which is particularly interesting.
All the news comes across mostly negative, some not known. S&P rises. It's like, okay.
Yeah.
Russia building another nuclear capacity. S&P rises. All right, so we're going to take a stab at these
Within
highs.
the intelligence report, it says Iran is not building a nuclear weapon. That's the US intelligence report says Iran is not building a nuclear weapon.
Finally, someone in the world who isn't. Like,
Yeah.
give us a break.
We had a strange aerial phenomena in the UK, sort of some kind of spiral shape in the cloud, which was blamed on Musk and a Starlink satellite release.
Interesting.
Funny, I was actually on holiday one time, and I had my I was doing a bit of astronomy with my family, and we saw a whole series of Starlink satellites being released.
Oh, that's cool.
It was really cool. It was like fairy lights in the sky.
Huh.
Yeah, it was. It was really cool to see. It was impressive. So we're getting absorption at this level here. We got buyers, prices moving lower, but the delta's moving higher. So I'm happy to hold my longs, even though it's sort of very clammy down here.
Yep.
Delta is pushing up.
If you get over the point of control, you
Yeah.
got some nice support there potentially.
Just a couple of comments here from the MBH's governor. It says tariff hikes, food and services prices pose upside inflation risks.
We have our little anchor here. If we'll just stay, we stay up here and don't have some kind of false break.
Yeah, that's the thing to be So you've got buyers trapped up there, you see. So this is an obvious area to have some selling against that standard deviation.
Yeah.
And you've got that value area. But that's quite a good base down at the value area low. We shall see. Famous last words.
Yeah, exactly. Complete reversal in time.
Yeah, like on a dime, you know. The delta is still very nice and positive. I think I'm going to buy in another position there.
If you crack that standard deviation, you have to think that we want to try to go up and test those highs. But
Yeah, you do.
I mean, you have to get through that value area, get through some of that traffic.
That strong bullish engulfing bar up to the standard deviation, trapping these sellers here. Let's have a look at that on the 15. Right, I've just had a close above these sellers here, so I'm happy to buy in. I'm happy to hold, and I've bought in on my live accounts just with that holding there, and just see if I can run up to the top here.
Okay, nice one.
I've got the stops just running underneath the 5815 on my live accounts, just because the point of control, we've moved higher, delta's positive. Seeing if we can get with those sellers trapped, we can get a run higher. Let's see.
Yep.
Let's see if I can get a run up on my live account. And I'm going to take it there on my live account. So I've just taken it up into that value area high. I'm going to hold on this one, see if I can get a bit more out of it. I think I'm just going to take that off, Paul, because I don't want to risk not going through that value area high. So I'm going to take off what I've got.
Yeah, fair enough.
And then wait again. So that's a good area for shorts to kind of build back in if they really wanted to.
Yeah.
Okay, that's nice.
Yeah, that was a good one.
So, wrap up for March 25th. Bottom line, I am flat on the day, despite plenty of action. Now, what I was looking for as we started the session, with sentiment being positive on expectations of Donald Trump having a tiered tariff system on like April the 2nd, just looking to buy the dip. So with these moves in the early European session, looking to buy as we came into the open. And as we came into the open, I just bought the bottom of this value area low, just kind of before the open. Then it became quite clear that we were moving lower. And as soon as it was clear it was moving lower, close out and then look to buy in at better prices against the daily VWAP. Bought in a couple of positions, took one off, bought the second to break even, got stopped out. Then we had this flush lower and there was a little volume spike. And I tried to run that, and I tried 2 attempts to go with this underneath this value area low and try and run it lower. And that was really a mistake, given the fact that we were into the volume profile on the weekly chart, the point of control. So I was trying to sell against this lovely sort of floor area. So that was a mistake. And that's really why I'm not positive on the day. Then when it was obvious that we were not going lower, closed those shorts and initiated longs, and then got in to the right side of the trade, which I was looking for all along. Bought off the 820, added as the position started to go in the favor. You can see price was moving lower, delta moving higher. There was some good absorption going on there. So happy to buy in. And then I had a decision as we hit this value area high. Do I try and run through or take profit? Take profit on those 3. Then saw that we were building and building towards a breakout to retest the highs. So as that became obvious, this building dynamic, and as we had these sellers trapped up here, I just bought into that in anticipation of the breakout. And then put my third position in as we broke over these highs. Price was sort of dithering up here, and I took everything off a little bit early. I could have maybe run for a bit more. Then I was looking at buying to see if this would carry on with us breaking out of here on the 15-minute. We're at value area high, so I have to be careful, but I was looking for a breakout and a continuation. So entered a buy, you know, being prepared to be nimble if we start going the wrong way. So we started going the wrong way, closed out, then entered a couple of buys as we dripped lower here and that value area low. Then it was obvious that we're really not carrying on higher, and the delta kept moving lower, and you can start to see the negative delta building. It just started to look wrong. So exited that at a scratch trade. Just this area, point of control, trying to buy in last couple of opportunities. Became obvious that wasn't going to happen. Then once we broke down through this area, value area high, point of control up there, good area for potentially selling. Took 2 positions short, great positioning, good idea, right place, wrong timing, and just closed the trade despite the delta building negatively.
From Ukrainian President Zelensky says Ukraine's understanding is that
despite the delta moving negatively, I just closed it out prematurely, and then only to see the trade go in the right direction after all. But that's basically the day done, and all that work has left me flat for the day. But the only good news is the live account. The trades I took on my live account, I took 1 trade on my live account, which was successful. So I'm actually up on the day, truth be told. So it's not all doom and gloom.
Nice.
Right.
All right, everybody. Well, we will see you back again tomorrow.
Yeah.
All right.
Take care, folks. See you, everyone.
Folks. Bye.